Can you imagine a House chamber filled with tension so thick you could cut it with a knife? That's exactly what happened when the question was asked. Senators, how say you? Is Donald John Trump guilty or not guilty? And one by one, the names were called. Not guilty, guilty, not guilty, guilty. It was a back and forth that sounded almost like a jury deliberating in slow motion. Question is on the first article of impeachment. Senators, how say you? Is the respondent Donald John Trump guilty or not guilty? A roll call vote is required. The clerk will call the roll. Mr. Alexander, not guilty. Mr. Alexander, not guilty. Miss Baldwin, guilty. Mr. Barrasso, not guilty. Mr. Barrasso, not guilty. Mr. Bennett, guilty. Mrs. Blackburn, not guilty. Blumenthal, guilty. Mr. Blunt, not guilty. Mr. Booker, guilty. Mr. Booker, guilty. Mr. Bozeman, not guilty. Mr. Braun, not guilty. Mr. Brown, guilty. Mr. Burr, not guilty. Miss Canwell, guilty. Mrs. Capito, not guilty. Mr. Cardin, guilty. But this wasn't a trial in a courthouse. This was Congress deciding whether to even begin the impeachment process again. Here's the kicker. 140 members of the House voted to move forward with impeachment. That's not a handful of progressive firebrands making a symbolic gesture. That's nearly a third of the House saying, yes, we think the president should be held accountable. And this is happening as the 2026 campaign season is just starting to heat up. Suddenly the political landscape is looking less like a chess game and more like a pressure cooker about to blow. Representative Al Green from Texas has been the driving force here. He's relentless. Over the past year, he's introduced multiple impeachment resolutions, each targeting a different aspect of Trump's presidency. From abusing executive power to ignoring Congress on war decisions. But what really lit the fuse this time? Green points squarely at what he calls Trump's normalization of political violence. He argues that Trump has created an environment where threatening lawmakers isn't shocking anymore. That the president's rhetoric, veiled as hyperbole or stochastic statements, has emboldened supporters to cross lines, sending threats, some serious, to both Democrats and Republicans alike. Mr. Casey, guilty. Mr. Cassidy, not guilty. Mr. Cassidy, not guilty. Miss Collins, not guilty. Cornyn, not guilty. Miss Cortez Masto, guilty. Mr. Cotton, not guilty. Mr. Cotton, not guilty. Mr. Kramer, not guilty. Think about it. Members of Congress needing extra security simply for speaking their minds. That's the kind of claim that makes headlines. But it's also why 140 lawmakers felt compelled to act. Now, the House did technically table the resolution, meaning leadership blocked it from moving forward immediately. Democrats like Hockey Jeff and others weren't ready to dive headfirst into impeachment. They worried about political risk and alienating moderates. But the sheer number of members backing Green shows that momentum is building. This isn't a fringe movement anymore. Even some moderate members from tight districts decided it was worth the political gamble. That tells you how seriously a chunk of Congress views Trump's actions. Here's where it gets really interesting. If the House does pass articles of impeachment, the Senate faces a classic bind: hold a full trial and deal with the political fallout, or try to sweep it under the rug and risk looking like they're protecting the president above the law. Either choice is a political powder keg. A trial drags headlines and public scrutiny for months, forces Republicans to defend Trump publicly, and could grind legislative agendas to a halt. On the other hand, doing nothing or rushing in a quit risks painting the Senate as complicit, prioritizing party loyalty over accountability. And let's not forget the timing. As 2026 approaches, senators are calculating their re-election odds down to the last vote. Swing state Republicans, in particular, are facing a nightmare scenario. Vote to convict and risk angering Trump's base, or vote to acquit and risk alienating independent voters watching closely. It's a lose-lose setup that could reshape the dynamics of the upcoming midterms. The historical context matters too. Al Green isn't new to impeachment efforts. Earlier this year, he tried targeting Trump's alleged misuse of presidential power and foreign policy overreach. At first, support was thin, but over time, as Trump's rhetoric grew harsher, joking about jailing political opponents, making inflammatory comments about lawmakers, Green's argument about normalized political violence gained traction. That's why the recent 140-vote surge is such a big deal. It's also connected to a broader narrative Democrats are building beyond impeachment. We're talking Epstein-related allegations, potential misuse of public funds tied to allies, and other corruption claims. These incidents together paint a picture of a president, an administration operating with little regard for accountability. Al Green and his allies argue that impeachment is the tool Congress must use to assert limits on executive power. It's not just politics, it's about the integrity of the system itself. Now, you might be wondering, does this actually change anything? Historically, impeachment doesn't guarantee removal. Trump survived 2 previous impeachment attempts, but even without conviction, the process leaves fingerprints. Every vote gets recorded. Every senator and representative is on the record, and that matters. It shapes public perception. It pressures lawmakers, and it dominates the news cycle at a time when campaigns are ramping up. Some Republicans might quietly hope the House never passes articles so they can avoid making a choice. Others will publicly frame the whole process as partisan theater, but without Green pushing more articles before the holidays. And with momentum building, avoiding a confrontation may no longer be an option. And when the Senate finally faces the trial, the stakes will be higher than ever. Political careers, public trust, and the balance of power all hanging in the balance. Here's the twist most people miss. Even if Trump isn't removed, impeachment itself is a statement. It signals that threatening lawmakers and abusing presidential power crosses a line. It forces the electorate to pay attention. And in the lead up to the 2026 elections, attention equals influence. Democrats hope that keeping these issues in the headlines will energize voters and highlight Trump's pattern of behavior. At the same time, Trump knows how to turn impeachment into political theater. His base rallies when he's framed as a victim of a partisan attack. That's the risk Democrats take. If the messaging isn't sharp, it could backfire and galvanize his supporters even more. But with 140 members already on board, the effort has credibility. It's no longer just a few voices yelling in the void. Here's why it matters for everyone watching. This isn't just another headline. This is about whether Congress can still check a president who pushes boundaries in ways we haven't seen before. It's about accountability, the limits of power, and whether threats against lawmakers become normalized. It's about democracy itself, and whether we have the courage to defend it. So buckle up. Over the next few months, Trump knows how to turn impeachment into political theater. We'll likely see more articles introduced, more votes cast, and the Senate forced to make hard choices. Whether it leads to conviction or acquittal, the process itself will shake up the political landscape, influence public opinion, and set the stage for 2026. Al Green is leading the charge. Trump is sticking to the rhetoric that's caused this chaos, and the rest of Congress is scrambling to navigate a political minefield. The takeaway: 140 members of the House have said yes to impeachment. That's huge. It's a signal that boundaries have been crossed, and the legislative branch is trying to flex its power. How the Senate responds, how Trump's base reacts, and how voters process all this will define the next chapter of American politics. It's messy, it's dramatic, and it's far from over. And if you're following along, pay attention to the debates, the speeches, and the headlines. Every vote, every statement, every procedural move matters. This isn't just political theater. It's a constitutional showdown with real stakes for the country. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider subscribing. I appreciate you.